Hello, everyone. Um, my name is Bart van Boksel, and I'll be talking you through how I'd like to build a search string within PubMed. A couple of things I'll be talking you through is the use of a Pico table, use of mesh terms, how to use Boolean operators, and how I like to use the advanced function of PubMed. So most of you will have a research question that is formatted within the Pico framework. The example I have here is how does endurance training compared to resistance training on the outcome fatigue in MS patients with the form relapsing remitting. And what I've done here is I created a table with 4 columns, each for PICO. I have a column, and I have individual search terms corresponding to the element in the row. So the first one, some really nice mesh terms, and then in the second row, get some synonyms, and so on. Now, this is not a great example of how many synonyms you should be using. You probably would like to be using more, but this is just an example. To find synonyms, you can search in the literature, read articles, talk to experts, read books, you name it. Yeah, this is the first step really to start building a search string. Find your search element. Um, what can be helpful is to look for mesh terms. Here I have an example of a mesh term, multiple sclerosis relapsing remitting mesh within brackets. And what it does is showcased here. By just typing in this within PubMed, it automatically knows to include these search terms as well. So I don't have to type all of those different ways out. PubMed does that for me if I include a mesh term. I strongly advise you to always include mesh terms if there is a mesh term available. It just adds extra information. Now, Boolean logic I don't think is new for many of you, so I'll go over it quickly. If I combine search term A with search term B with and, of course, both of them need to be in the article. If I do or, it doesn't really matter. It can be just A, it can be just B, or it can be both. If I combine A and B with not, I only get results that have A but not B. And there the order becomes important. So if I say B not A, then I just get that. Yeah, that's important to know. So how do I actually build a search string? I like to think of it as 3 or 4 steps, 2 and 3 being pretty much the same. And step 1 is search your individual terms. And that's important. I underscored it. It is because this helps you troubleshoot. I've given an example here. I searched my individual terms for multiple sclerosis, but here I'm getting just 4 results. Now, what could be going on there? All right. I misspelled it. And this already showcases you that PubMed doesn't tell you if you made a mistake. It sometimes does, but not always. This also shows that 4 people, authors, have spelled multiple sclerosis this way. But this is the correct, right? Multiple sclerosis with a C, I'm getting 110,000 result. That makes much more sense within the scope of MS. Really, I can't emphasize this enough. Search your individual terms. I know it's a bit boring, but it really helps you see what's going on and it helps others, experts, me or colleagues, to see what's going on if something goes wrong. If you come to us with a search string like this, I'm not a computer. I don't have the skills necessary to see what's going on in such a large chunk of text and all brackets here and there and whatnot. I cannot see that. So you have to show us, you have to help yourself, help us troubleshoot if things go wrong by first searching the individual terms and seeing if it makes sense. Do my results make sense? Right, if you've searched your individual terms, the next step is to combine these terms with or into a block. And you create a block for P, but you also create a block for I, C, and O. example here, I created a block, number 6, for my MS. So I combined two search terms with OR. I do that for I, and I do that for C, and here O. Well, I didn't have a synonym for O, but that's good. Last step is to combine these blocks that I've shown you with and then you end up with a search string such as this. Now, let me show you what that looks like within PubMed. So here on the left-hand side, I have the homepage of PubMed, and here on the right-hand side, I have my my Pico table that I created with my synonyms. What I like to do, I like to go to the advanced function. And remember, step 1, search your individual terms. I start copying over my individual terms into the query box here, into this query box. So I just copy it over and I say here, don't press search, but press add to history, because then it just adds it here in the bottom and I have a nice overview. Just give me a second to copy over everything. So that would be my synonym for MS. This is my first search term for my intervention, synonym for my intervention. I think you get the point. Remember, make sure to search all of them individually. We're nearly there. And remember, I don't have a synonym for O. You probably should, but just for this purpose, I haven't included a synonym there. Now, these all kind of make sense. I'm getting plenty of results. Maybe endurance training, is a little bit low there. I am expecting that there should be a lot more research on just endurance training. So maybe that already tells me that that search term isn't complete enough, is not capturing all of the possible research on endurance training. I'm not going to do anything about it now, because this is just a demonstration. Step 2 is to create blocks. So I'm going to create a block for P, I, C, and O. I do that by pressing these little dots at action. So I'm building a block for P. I first say add query, and with the second one I say add with, and then of course I choose OR, because I'm still building the block of P, add history. And now I have a new line of code that says that is my block for P. I do the same with my intervention. So endurance training, remember, add query, and then synonym, aerobic training, add with OR, add to history. My comparison was resistance training or strength training, add to history. And my outcome, I just have one outcome, but just to show you, add to query and search. Now I have 4 blocks here, and they still all roughly make sense. And they have, for the most part, or they have all increased in size, except MS, which makes sense. And now I start combining them with AND. So I do the same process, add query, but I combine the blocks with AND. Combine the blocks with and I add my O. And now I say add to history. I get 4 results, which is, a little low because probably the synonyms weren't there. But now I can press this number. And the very first result I'm getting is a systematic review and meta-analysis on the exact research question that I had. Is aerobic or resistance training the most effective exercise modality for improving lower extremity physical function and perceived fatigue in people with multiple sclerosis? That seems to fit my research question particularly well. Right, thank you for listening. I hope this helps, and let me know if there's any more questions.